State Education Issues Director for the Bridges Institute. Tonight, we are doing T-TESS, the end of year conference, and we have an expert in the field, Rachel Broussard. She and I go way back to like 2000, what, about 14, I feel like, a long ways
Yes.
back. We are really great friends and colleagues in and outside of the union. She is actually a former classroom teacher. That's when we met. And then she became an administrator, and now she is a TIA support specialist. So she knows everything about T-TESS inside and out. And so that she did a fall series for us, and now we're bringing her back for this end of year conference. So just a couple of things before we get started. If you will click those three dots up in the corner and change your name to your first and your last name, because that's how I match it up to the registration to issue certificates. I will check attendance at the 1 hour mark. So, and I look at your name. And so if yours says iPhone, I don't have an iPhone over here on the registration list. Therefore, you will not get a certificate. So make sure that it is your first and your last name as your screen name, and your name must match what you registered for. With. So with that being said, I will not waste any more of your time, and I will hand it over to you, Rachel.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you, Jamie, for that introduction. I thank you all for being here today. I was just telling everybody that I'm super excited about being able to do this as a former administrator. I felt like T-TESS can be very daunting to everyone. Even as an administrator, when I was still on the campus, it was definitely not my favorite thing to do. But of course, it's a requirement. Uh, but I also felt like it was so much information that was out there. It was just this onslaught of information. And in order for people to understand it, I feel like they need someone to be their guide and help them through the process. So thank you all for being here tonight and getting this information, because we want everybody to be successful, and we want you to be able to advocate for yourselves when it comes to the T-TESS process. So again, thank you for being here. And as we go through this process, please let me know if you have any questions, because this is for everyone. And if you need to ask any questions about this process and understanding what this end of the year conference is supposed to be about, please stop me, and I will be happy to answer any questions that you have. All right. Can everybody?
Rachel,
Yes.
there's Jenny, I think, has her hand up.
Yes, Jenny, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't quite get that part. When I first got on, I saw the three dots, and now that you've come on, I don't see the three dots anymore. What was I supposed to do?
Oh, we have your full name. It's Jenny Kahn, right?
Yeah, am I good? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. You are
Thank
good.
you. Thank you.
No
I'm
problem,
sorry.
hon. No problem at all.
Okay.
All right. Can everybody see my screen and the presentation? We're good to
Yes.
go? Okay, great job. All right, so I'll go ahead and get started. So just a little bit about me. This is year 20 for me in education. I did start off as a history and ELAR teacher. I was an athletic coach, and then I moved into campus leadership, being an instructional specialist. I've been a district curriculum coordinator, dean of instruction, associate principal. I've literally done it all at the campus level, right? So now I am at the district level. I did start off as again, a curriculum coordinator, CTE data coordinator. I was a student information systems trainer, and now I am the director of research assessment and data. And everything that comes through my office with my team deals with PEEMS, it deals with attendance, but it also deals with, we are responsible for Eduphoria. If any of you use Eduphoria, that's where your Strive component is, and that's where you put your T-TESS information. So just know that I have a lot of different tools in my toolbox that I definitely want to share with you all. I am still a certified appraiser. I do try to keep my certification accurate every year. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put this presentation, the link to it, in the chat. You can follow along with me because there are some clickable links. There are some clickable links in the chat, and in the presentation, and you'll be able to go to those things. So if you click on my certification, it's going to take you to the teachfortexas.org. What I tell people all the time is that anything dealing with T-TESS is for public consumption. So everything that your administrators have access to, you have access to through the teachfortexas.org website. It has manuals on there that talks about the entirety of the T-TESS process. So just know that anything that you need in order to advocate for yourself will be on that website. And it's everything that your administrator is supposed to do when it comes to all of your evaluations. You want to make sure that you know those things so that you can advocate for yourself as well. Okay? All right, so this is what we're going to get into today. We're going to start off with just a brief T-TESS overview. We're going to talk about the purpose of the end of the year conference. We're going to talk about your task as a teacher, providing the evidence. When we get to the summative and we're having these end of year conferences, this is when you get to show everything that you've done in the process of the entirety of the evaluation. So we are going to go through those things. We are going to really hone in on domain 4. Although domain 4 is something that should be talked about throughout the entire evaluation process, it really is the focal point in the end of the year conference. So you definitely want to know what that component is and how you can show your administrator and the person that's evaluating you what you've done throughout the year. And then we'll talk about the end of the year conference flow chart. And then I do want to talk about the summative matrix that TEA provides to everyone, just so you know how you're graded when it comes to the T-TESS process. All right. So please stop me if you have any questions. I am eager to answer those questions for you and eager for you to have this knowledge in your toolbox so that you can have a well thought out end of the year conference and be able to show your administrators why you deserve the highest level of achievement. Okay. All right, so our T-TESS overview. So, of course, the T-TESS model, when we talk about the T-TESS history, it did replace PDOS or PDOS. That's what I started off on 20 years ago when I started teaching. But eventually they said they wanted more self-reflection and they wanted a process that helps teachers to grow. And that was the purpose of the T-TESS model. Now, I put this particular cycle on here, this reflection cycle, because throughout the entirety of the process, there's supposed to be self-reflection. And then there are key components of the T-TESS process that requires the teacher to reflect. So you start off with the teacher self-reflection at the beginning of the year. You go through the goal setting and you establish your professional development plan. Once you do that implementation of your plan, you'll have the formative reviews where you'll get the evaluations, and then you prepare for your end of the year conference. Once you have that end of the year conference, then you start preparing for your goals for next year.
Couple of accidents.
Did someone have a question?
Wanted Jones Salzburger on the right shoulder.
All right. So just know that the self-reflection component is very important because it's going to help you to be able to say, this is how I grew as a teacher throughout this year. This is how I grew students. And it also helps you to be able to develop those artifacts that you need in order to show your appraiser that this is what you've done throughout the year. Okay. Now, the purpose of T-TESS. So, of course, we know that T-TESS stands for Texas Teacher Evaluation and Support System, and it focuses on providing continuous, timely, informative feedback to educators so that they can improve their practice. Now, this is where a lot of teachers do have cause for complaint, right? Because sometimes that feedback isn't continuous. It's okay, I got my 15, I got my 45, I got another 15, and then I may not see anybody again. And that's not necessarily what it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be able to set meetings with your appraiser. You're supposed to be able to talk to them about anything that you are doing your self-reflection plan on. So it's not just about, did I get in my 2 15s and the 45? It's about always being able to talk to your administrator, tell them what you're working on in your professional development plan. You're supposed to be able to do all of those things with your administrator, whoever is evaluating you. You can set times to be able to talk to them about how you're meeting your growth goals and your measures and how your students are progressing as well. Because of course, our ultimate goal is to be effective and do right by kids and have them grow. But of course, we want to build up ourselves so that we can have the tools and the knowledge that we need in order to be able to reach those goals. So again, remember, it's supposed to be continuous feedback, timely feedback, and formative feedback. So this is supposed to improve the practice of teaching. So of course, the 4 domains of T-TESS, you see this over to the side. You have planning, instruction, learning environment, and then professional practices and responsibilities. The biggest one that is talked about in your end of the year conference is going to be the professional practices and responsibilities. So that's where you have your professional demeanor and ethics, goal setting, professional development, and then school community involvement. Now, that does not mean that you're not talking about the other 3 within the conference. And so let me also tell you this. It was one thing that I had to learn as an administrator when I was a baby administrator, when I first started off as a dean of instruction and then became an associate principal. I was not doing I can be totally transparent and say that I was not doing my summatives properly. At one point I was just, okay, I copied my 45, pasted my 45, and then we went through the domain 4 together. That is not what's supposed to happen. So if your administrator is doing that, you need to tell them, hey, I think you're supposed to add more information in based on the evaluations that you've done after my 45, or based on the artifacts that I'm providing to you, and that can increase your standing when it comes to the domains. So just know, if when you got your 45, you were proficient all the way down, of course, as everybody loves to say, of course, and it is, proficient all the way down is rock solid teaching, right? But let's say you're like, okay, well, when you came to see me and did my 45, this was what I was working on, but I was able to increase my craft by going to this professional development seminar. I utilized those tools, and this is how my students grew based on me utilizing those things. Now, again, you're going to have to provide those artifacts. You're going to have to show that evidence. But if you can show that evidence and then you can show that students have grown, then that is cause for you being able to move from rock solid teaching at proficient to those higher dimensions that you can access. So just know that it is important that you have your artifacts and your evidence that shows that you are doing the work in the classroom and you are doing everything that you need to do to grow students. So of course, you're going to have those data components to show that students are growing as well. All right, we'll go ahead and keep going. And again, if you're looking at the link if you're following along with me, there you can click on this picture and it's going to take you to another resource from teachfortexas.org. It is the T-TESS implementation guidebook. This is what your administrators are looking at when they are trying to do everything that they're supposed to do on their end when it comes to T-TESS. So just know, again, like I'm gonna continue to say this, if you don't learn anything else tonight, remember that everything that your administrator has is public consumption. And you can look at everything that they're supposed to do and look at everything that you can do in order to increase your scores when it comes to T-TESS. Okay? All right, so let's talk about the purpose of the end of the year conference, because that's what we're here for, to talk about how we can put all of our things together to show what we've done and how we've progressed throughout the year. So again, if there's nothing, I told you, remember public consumption, but here's another thing that I want you to take with you. Do not ever waive your end of the year conference. A lot of times you will have, and you do have that right to waive it. And sometimes because we're tired at the end of the year and we're just trying to get everything done and, oh yeah, my 45 was pretty good, I don't want to worry about it, we'll just go with the flow, I'll sign off on it. Do not ever waive your end of the year conference. Go in and advocate for yourself. Even if you think that you have a rock solid summative, you think that everything is going to be well, you do not want to waive your end of the year conference, because that's your time to meet with your administrator and put yourself on showcase. You are able to say, hey, look at all of this great stuff I've done for kids. Look at how I've contributed to the campus. Look at all of the things that I've been able to add to my toolbox and my pedagogy. You need to be able to say all of those things. And, it's your time to pat yourself on the back. And it's your time to say, hey, look what I've done in order to build up the students that I've had all year and contribute to the campus culture. So you want to make sure that you are ready to go in and talk about all of the great things that you've done throughout the year. So these are the elements that you are going to go over when you are meeting with your campus administrator. So the first thing you're going to do, you're going to review the final observation data for domains 1, 2, and 3. And again, I cannot stress this enough. It should not just be a copy and paste of your 45. It should be the things in there that shows any growth that you've made since your 45. It should have, and you are bringing elements and you're bringing evidence that says, hey, look what I did from the last time you came to my classroom. Look at all of these things that are helping students, and look at how my kids have grown from this district assessment to this district assessment, or this campus assessment to another campus assessment. So again, it's going to fall on you to show your administrators, especially if they're only doing the minimum, which the minimum is 2 15s and a 45, then you are going to have to show your administrator, these are, when you came into my classroom, you saw this, but when you weren't there, these are the things that I did for students. So you're going to have to show that burden of proof. But again, I cannot stress enough that your final observation data should not just be a copy and paste of your 45. It should show all of the things that you have done in order to grow students. Okay? Now, the other thing that you're going to do is you're going to review the student learning objectives that you established at the beginning of the year, and then any teacher impact data. So this is where, again, of course, we become data geniuses when we become educators, right? We have to track our student growth. We have to look at how our students are making progress within our classes. So whatever that growth looks like, whatever class you teach, there can be growth in everything. Again, I told you, in my department now, in my current position, I'm responsible for all of the submissions to the state when it comes to PEAMS. One of the ones that I'm working on right now is the winter class roster, where we're looking at the teacher incentive allotment. And as we look at these things, we see that, some of our teachers have met the qualifications in order to get to be designated for the teacher incentive allotment. But in order to do that, those individuals had to track their student data. And it's not just core teachers, and I must emphasize this. If your district subscribes to the elements where you can qualify for the teacher incentive allotment. Like right now, we have several teachers. We have CTE teachers. We have core teachers. We have individuals that have met that threshold and are going to get those designations and that allotment from the state. So again, I cannot stress enough how important data is to the whole T-TESS cycle. You definitely want to be able to track your students' data. You want to have some sort of benchmark for them to be able to show that your students are growing throughout the year. So you definitely want to look at those things, and you want to have that evidence when you go to the end of the year conference. You want to be able to say, hey, because remember, sometimes your administrators are looking at the school in its totality. They're not just, and of course, they are looking at different teachers and everything else, but you're the one looking at your individual students and you're seeing how they're growing. And you want to be able to show them that, hey, look what I was able to do for little Johnny from the beginning of the year up until now. Look at the progress that they've made. And if you're tracking that data, you want to be able to show that as an artifact when you come to your end of the year conference. Now, the next element that you're going to talk about when you come to your end of the year conference is you're going to share and discuss evidence for Domain 4. Again, Domain 4 is the start of show when you come to your end of year conference, because this is when you're going to be able to talk to your administrator about how you've contributed to the campus, your professional development, your goals. You're talking about all of those things within Domain 4. So you want to include how you've attained the goals that you set at the beginning of the year. You want to talk about your professional learning outcomes. You want to talk about your professional development that you've done. And please keep a good, accurate information about your professional development. This is professional development. What you're sitting in right now is professional development. So if you've done the work and you've done the due diligence to enhance your knowledge and build your teacher toolbox, document it and let them know that, look, in my free time, it's what, 6:24 on a Thursday, you have decided to increase your knowledge. You are adding to your toolbox, and your administrators need to know that. They need to know that you are taking the time to build yourself as a professional, as an educator, and they need to give you credit for those things. All right, and then the last element that you're going to talk about within your end of the year conference is you're going to discuss new goals and professional development activities for your upcoming year. So I used to tell my teachers all the time, hey, as we're talking right now, we look at how you've accomplished your goals this year. What is it that you want to accomplish for next year? That way, when we get to the start of the beginning of the year, you're not scrambling to get your goals together. You've already established it at the end of the year, and you will be able to say at the beginning of the upcoming year, hey, I already have my goals because I already talked to my administrator about that. And all you have to do is put that information into your whatever platform you use. We use Eduphoria in my district. And if you put your goals in there, you already established them based on what you were able to accomplish from the previous year. So all of these things, if you're not talking about at minimum these 4 things in your end of the year conference, then you need to bring that up to your administrator. You're like, wait, hold on, we were supposed to talk about XYZ. And again, it's all in that information that we talked about from teachertexas.org. Again, I can't tell you enough. I used to tell my teachers all the time, it's the cheat code. You have the cheat code of how T-TESS is supposed to run when you go to that website. It is public consumption. It is open for everyone. And you want to make sure that you have those tools so that everybody can say, hey, she or he knows their stuff. And you don't want anybody to think that, oh, I'm not taking this seriously. I'm just coming in here so I can sign off on this so that I can make sure I can get out early with everybody at the end of the year. You want to make sure that everybody is giving you your due credit for what you've done throughout the year, because you all are the lifeblood of the campus, because you are ensuring that our students are getting what they need in order to be productive students and then eventually productive citizens of society. So we want to make sure that you are getting the credit that you deserve when it comes to your T-TESS evaluations. All right, we're going to keep going. And remember, please stop me if you have any questions, because if you have any questions that are dealing specifically with something that goes on your campus or in your district, I would be happy to help you with any of those things. All right, so the teacher task, this is super important because we want you to know what you need to provide when it comes to your end of the year conference. So be your own advocate. I can't tell you enough. You have to speak up for yourself because you're 9 times out of 10. Yes. Does somebody have a question? Okay. Please, we'll stop and take any questions if you have them. But you have to be your own advocate. So just know that T-TESS is objective. It is, as an administrator, when I was trained to do T-TESS, your administrator is scripting everything that they see or should be. Okay, so they are scripting everything that they see. If little Johnny is running around in the back of the classroom, I gotta write that down, right? Or if the students are working collaboratively together in groups and I see evidence of all of the different things, I have to write that down. So just know that, again, T-TESS is objective. It's not about, oh, this is my favorite teacher, and I'm going to go in here and give them glowing reviews. I have to be able to see it. So just know that it's all about what is observed and what is proven through data and artifacts. So how do you advocate for yourself and your lessons? Do your artifacts chronicle your instructional cycle and your contributions to your campus? So as one of my mentors once told me, it's facts over feelings. And sometimes we can think, oh, I thought I did a great job on it, on this thing, on my evaluation. And sometimes you have to show people, okay, but 50% of the students were not engaged. 50% of the students were not on task, and sometimes it stings to hear some of those things, but it helps us to be able to grow because now it's like, okay, well, what do I need to do? Do I need to work on small groups? Should I be providing more choice elements when it comes to assignments? All of those things are things that you should be talking to your administrator about when it comes to the T-TESS cycle. But when we get to the end of the year, whatever you received on your 15-minute observations, your walkthroughs, and then your 45-minute full observation, you ought to be able to say, well, based on what you saw when you came in at this particular moment in time, I've been able to grow students from where this was to other different, I've been able to grow them. So you want to be able to say, I've grown my students and I have the evidence to show that I've grown my students. So you want to be able to do those things. And again, you are the person that's going to be able to advocate for you. Your administrator, more than likely, is just going off their 15-minute observations and their 45-minute observations. And to the administrator's defense, and I tell people all the time, it was a benefit for me going to the dark side, right? Jamie knows this. When I was an administrator, I could not be a member of AFT because I was in an administrator role where I evaluated teachers. I was, I guess, the hiring and firing person. But now that I've gotten that information and I'm no longer in that role, I definitely want to help teachers to be able to know this is what, so again, to the administrator's defense, depending on what type of school you're at and the population, they may have anywhere between 20 to 30 teachers that they have to evaluate it throughout the entire T-TESS cycle. So they may only give you the minimum which is required. So it's going to, again, the burden of proof is going to fall on you as a teacher to say, hey, I know that you didn't get to see as much as I've done this year, but let me show you what I've done and how great I am. Remember, this is the time to be conceited. You need to be conceited and boisterous and all of those different things. It's time for you to shine. It's like, time for you to be the superstar. Y'all remember that? When she was superstar. Okay. No, y'all don't remember the movie? Never mind. It's one of my favorites. It's like, don't judge me. Okay. So just know that you are the person that is going to be able to say, hey, these are the things that I've done in my classroom. This is how I've grown kids, and here's my evidence. And this is where you can advocate for whatever you were given on your formal observation to possibly be moved up in your hierarchy of your ranking when it comes to your T-TESS observation in the domains. All right, any questions about that? How you're able to be your own advocate? So there are tons of resources. I did put this one element that talks about the domain 4 checklist. There are tons of resources out on the internet. If you do any type of Google search when it comes to domain 4 of the T-TESS cycle or any domain, it's several things that are going to come up. But just know that they also show you different artifacts that you can use to show that you've met those elements of the domain. So this particular one is domain 4, and it says, what evidence are you going to use? So it has evidence of teacher complying with campus and district standards. Of course, you can show that you've done those things by just showing, did I provide you with the teacher teacher parent call log? That's evidence. Walkthrough notes and evaluations. If you had good walkthroughs, you want to say, hey, my professional demeanor and ethics, I should get glowing reviews on that because clearly I was doing what I was supposed to do in my classroom. And then goal setting. Did you meet your goals? And again, so that's a whole nother thing. And I think I may have talked about this in a previous training when we talk about goal setting. Remember, don't put yourself in a position where you won't attain something by the end of the year. You always want to make attainable goals. So just make sure that you are going through and looking at these things and making goals that are going to, by the time you get to your end of the year conference, you're able to say, yes, I did everything I needed to do in order to make it to that goal. Okay. And then, of course, any evidence of student growth attainment, you definitely want to keep all of the data from any tests, any assessments that your students have done that shows that growth. You have PD certificates from trainings you've attended. Make sure everybody is giving you credit for any training that you have sat in, whether it be PLC or when you have PD days for the district, make sure you're signing in, make sure they're giving you credit for it, because all of that goes for your domain 4. And then you also want to make sure that when we talk about community involvement, if you have parent contact logs, have that as your artifact. Any committees that you're on, anything that you've led on campus, make sure you have evidence of that. If you, even to the point where you were at sporting events and fine arts concerts, all those that keep anything, if you have any type of program, or if you took a picture of yourself with the kids at the event, keep those things, because they need to see that, hey, I'm not just doing the things in my classroom, I'm also doing the things to build the culture of the campus and to build connections with students. And all of that should push your T-TESS, especially in domain 4, up past proficient. Okay?
Rachel,
Yes.
Miss Charlie Banks has her hand up.
Okay, yes, please. I'm ready.
Yes, just quick question. I wanted
Mhm.
to ask, with everything being so electronic, how do you recommend any certificates that we get? Maybe do like a screenshot and then put it in a PowerPoint presentation, or what do you recommend for that with everything being so electronic?
I love that you said that. So I actually have some information in here. And actually, there's a teacher that has a Google site that has all of his information and everything. And I'm just not just talking about PD. Like he has all of his student scores, well, student evidence. He has now you can use just a regular PowerPoint like this one, or Google Slides in order to have links to your artifacts and everything else. But this one particular teacher created a Google site that has all of the information on there. So I'm gonna get to that in just a minute and talk about those different things, but I would definitely create a digital portfolio that has all of the information. That way you have it in one central location, and you can have different elements that go with each one of the domains that you want to show that you've made progress in. And you can just tweak it every year. So after you've done this, you have it as something that's, tangible on the web, but it also, you can look at it and say, okay, I see what I did last year. I'm going to clone this, or I'm going to create something different and enhance what I did from last year. So just know that I'm going to talk about how you can collect that data and what it looks like. I would definitely recommend that you do it digitally. Now I told y'all I've been in the game for 20 years. So I am from the old school game. I used to keep a mean binder. Okay. I used to listen, I'd have all my little tabs and, you know, everything laminated, and then my little sheets and stuff like that. If you still want to do that, you are absolutely okay to do it. Cause I was a binder beast. Okay. But I would say with the digital age that we're in and all of the different things, you definitely want to have some sort of digital component. And just plug here, you want to have some sort of professional social media, have some sort of Twitter. I still call it Twitter. It's not X to me. I'm sorry. But you may want to have something that you can show how you've interacted with your colleagues, how you have been there at events for your students, how and of course, you want to make sure that all of your students um, have signed off with their handbook information that they can be photographed. But even if they can't, you can always put that little emoji sticker and everything on there to show what work looks like in your class. I've had so many different teachers that have literally brought their Twitter feed in for their end of the year conference and was like, after you left, you didn't get to see the whole lesson that day, but this was the product of what the kids did. You came at the first part of the lesson. Here's the product of what the kids did. And, I'm looking at student presentations and everything else. And I'm like, wow, that was great. And to see that culmination of the lesson, and you see how the students progressed. And also she was able to show me her data of how the students progressed from one assessment to another. I'm moving your score up because you're showing me the evidence. So thank you for that question, but I'm definitely going to get more into that because you want to be able to show that you've done everything. But my suggestion, where we are right now in the digital age, I would say have some sort of online platform that you use for a digital portfolio. All right. Did I answer that question for you?
Oh, yes, you did. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. All right. So let's talk about your task as a teacher. So before the conference, you want to be able to look at your student learning objectives. You're looking at your professional goals. And again, what evidence do you have to show that you have rocked out domain 4? Because those are the main things that you're going to be talking about when you are in the conference with your administrator. So once your administrator has set the time, again, because we don't waive our conferences, remember that we do not waive our end of the year conferences. So once you set your time of when you are going to do the end of the year conference, you want to start preparing by having all of these things together. But as we just talked about, if you are collecting these things throughout the year and you're housing them in a digital portfolio, or again, a tangible portfolio, if you want to do a binder or anything else, do that throughout the year. Do not wait. Do not, if you don't listen to anything else that I say, do not wait until the end of the year to try to collect all of your artifacts. You should be collecting those as you go throughout the year. Because if you wait to the end, you're going to miss something. You're going to miss something that was probably fabulous that can get you over that proficient, or trying to get you to distinguish, and all of those different things. You want to be able to show everything that you've done. So you want to collect these things throughout the year. All right. So just know that you are going to need to prepare these things prior to your conference. These are the things that you're going to do as a teacher. You're going to ensure that you have your student learning objectives. You've looked at those things. You have the student growth tracker. You're showing all of the data that shows that your students are making growth. You're going to show that you've made growth towards your professional goals, or you've met your professional goals. And then you're going to show all of the artifacts for domain 4 that goes through all of these different things. So you definitely want to be keeping all of those things throughout the year. You don't want to wait to the end of the year and say, and then you possibly go back after you signed your summative and you're saying, oh, shoot, I forgot that I did this and I could have told them this, and that could have taken you over to a different level. Okay.
There's a question in the chat.
Okay, let me see. All right, I have two screens open, so if it looks like I'm looking over here, I have the chat over here. Okay, so let's see. Okay, in domain 1, 2, and 3, I received it accomplished, except on 2.4, I received a proficient. I'm confident I will receive accomplished or distinguished on domain 4. Will I be able to qualify this year for TIA? Thanks. Okay, that is a great question. So remember that TIA has, the teacher incentive allotment has various components. So of course, the biggest component is your T-TESS. And you have to meet a certain threshold, which I believe it's, oh, don't quote me on it. I'm going to say 70 something percent is for the T-TESS, but then your student growth, you have to show some sort of student growth. And that student growth has to be, if it's on the core side, you're looking at star scores. That's just point blank and period, right? But if you're an elective teacher or a CTE teacher or anything else, you have to have gotten approval from, and I think it goes through Texas Tech, of any type of assessment or assessment measures that shows growth for your students. So just know that, yes, if you had, well, first off, if you're at accomplished and distinguished, then you're rocking it out and you're going to meet the T-TESS threshold. The next threshold that you have to meet is the student growth threshold. So you want to make sure that, of course, so the whole point of T-TESS, right, is that if you're rocking it out on the T-TESS side, then your student growth should match what you're rocking out on the T-TESS side, right? Because you're doing all of those things for kids. So if you're doing all of the great things for kids, helping them to be able to overcome some of the barriers that they may be having, because I mean, let's just be honest, right? We're still trying to recover from COVID with some of our kids, right? Some of those COVID gaps. So just know that if you're rocking it out and doing those things and you meet that T-TESS threshold, you also want to, of course, monitor how your students have grown throughout the year when it comes to your campus and district assessments, and then how that compares to the student growth for any state assessments that they may take. Or again, if you're an elective teacher, CTE teacher, whatever your measurement tool is what that has been approved by the state is what you're going to use to show growth. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. I am
Okay.
a teacher, and we do the circle
Uh-huh.
thing, and I am, doing whatever I can just to move up, and I'm ensuring that my students are well prepared, and also I am saving all the artifacts as much as I can to prove that they're getting there.
Absolutely.
I'm
And that's
recording them as well.
awesome. That's awesome. And 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 you all know this. Collecting the artifacts is a job in itself, right? So, I mean, of course, doing the great, awesome things that you do in class is amazing, but collecting the artifacts is a whole nother job. So just know that it can be cumbersome, it can be tiring, but it is worth it in the end, for you to get the positive results on your T-test. And then, of course, if you show that student growth, if your district and your campus ascribes to the teacher incentive allotment, then you should be getting those designations and those allotments because you're doing the work. And we want to just make sure that you have the tools that you need in order to show all of the awesome things that you're doing. All right, y'all. So just know that this information on here, and I do have links to these as well. So this one is from it's a T-TESS domain scoring burden of proof rubric. It's basically, it talks about what are the possible sources of evidence and artifacts that you can use in order to show that you should be above proficient in domain 4. So it gives you a list on here. But again, if you have access, and I'm going to go ahead for those of you who just made it into the chat, I'm going to put the presentation link in here again. But just know that when you go through here, you can click on this and it's going to take you to the actual resource that I was able to screenshot this from. But just know that it has all of these things that show, hey, this is what I'm doing in my classroom, or this is what I'm doing across campus, and here's my evidence to show why I should be above proficient. Now, if you're looking at this, it's on my right side where you see it has tests at the top. Okay, so that is not T-TESS. That is actually from the state of Arkansas, and so they have of course, we have T-TESS because we're Texas, but they have tests, and they are giving you also some resources that can help you to be able to add to your domain 4. Now you can click on this also, but it's not just domain 4 that they have the other domains as well. They don't necessarily call them the same things that we do, but it's definitely within the same realm. Okay. So again, remember, the burden of proof falls on you to show your administrator if they didn't give you something above proficient, or if they gave you something below proficient and you're trying to get up to where you need to be, you definitely want to bring those artifacts and have all of the things that shows that you've done the due diligence to increase your score. Okay, I see there's another question in the chat. So unfortunately, I teach a subject where the district is developing a pre-test, post-test, and my students who show major growth are removed from my class in the fall and put in college classes, so they won't take the post-test and show the growth there. As a small specialized campus, we are also told to use the course I teach to prepare our students for the TSI, so they can take college math courses. The pre-test, post-test are testing them on the SLOs that we aren't focusing on. Okay. So those are the things that you want to talk to your administrators about at the beginning of the year. Because so I can tell you from a PEIM standpoint, and this is why it's important for all of our data to be accurate when we report it to the state. Again, it's great that I'm right here in this work right now. So winter class roster, if you ever hear anybody talk about that, winter class roster is the submission. It's a course submission that we submit to the state where we're looking at student schedules, we're looking at teachers, we're looking at teacher coding. Like the teacher, in order for you to qualify for TIA and everything else, like you have to be coded right in your student information system. So all teachers are coded as an 087. And in order for you to qualify, you will have to have that staff association. You have to have some sort of staff section association, meaning that you have to have sections of courses and you have to have students associated with it. And then it also has the start and end date of your students, the transaction dates of your students in those courses. So depending on how long you've had your students in that course, you still possibly could be given credit for them, but you definitely want to have those conversations with your administrators at the beginning of the year. If they get to the point where they do find a way for you to be able to qualify, they can't keep pulling those kids out of your class in order for those students to be able to show that progress. So you want to have those conversations with your administrators to say, hey, I need to have, the benchmark, pre, post test, all of those different things to show student growth. And they have to come up with a plan in order to help you to be able to accomplish that. So just know that that is something that you are allowed to talk to your administrators about.
That was my question.
Uh-huh.
This seems, this is frustrating because my campus dean understands that, but then doing that would be hurting the students. I teach for an early college high school, so those
Mhm.
students wouldn't be earning their associate's degree. And that's what the pushback is from the big administration who's like creating the tests. But then it's like, aren't we supposed to be doing what's best for the students? So it's like either we're doing what's best for the students or we're looking at doing what's best for me. And I just like, I think this is stupid. So
No, I totally understand, and I totally get what you're saying. But that doesn't mean that they can't work their master schedule to where you have a class where you keep the kids for that full amount of time. It doesn't mean that, so that's a whole nother thing, right? It
I-
doesn't mean that one of your class, it doesn't mean that, okay, let's say you have one class where you're helping those students and they do get to take the TSI and then they move into those college level courses.
no, the only classes I teach
Mhm.
I teach Algebra 3. And so I'm the math teacher who teaches the students who have not yet qualified to take the college math classes. I teach the 11th and 12th graders who are on the college campus. That's where we're located.
Mhm.
And so as soon as that's our goal, to get them to pass the TSI so that they can get into a college math class. And when they pass the TSI, then they're put into a college math class the next semester.
And you're not the college teacher.
No.
Okay.
We're aiming to get there so that I
Mhm.
can, we've tried to get the college to approve that I can teach college algebra. I don't
Okay.
know, would that qualify for TIA? How
I
would,
believe it does. Now, don't quote me on that, but I do believe it does. So if they can find a way to work with your um, with your with the college, and you're able to use the coursework and the course assessments, and it's approved by the state, then I do believe that will qualify. But again, don't quote me on that directly. I will look that up for you, though. I'm going to give you my contact information at the end of this presentation, and I will look that up for you directly.
okay, thank you.
Absolutely. All right, y'all. So just know that, again, the burden of proof falls on us, and we have to make sure. That took me to. So I could actually show you this. So this takes you to all the examples of the artifacts from all of the different domains that the Arkansas has, but it also has, again, it's not the same domains that we have, but it still gives you good examples of what the artifacts are. All right, let's keep going. Okay, so we're coming to we talk about evidence and how you can organize your evidence. So when I did my first T-TESS training last semester, I found this awesome guy's website, and it was truly amazing. So Mr. Crummell is a teacher here in Texas, and he has all of these things on his site, and all of his evidence and artifacts are all together. So again, you have access to this presentation. When you click on this, it'll take you to Mr. Crummell's app. Now, again, I said you can use Google Sites, but he's using Bulb app. You can use any type of online platform, but he has pictures of him as a coach. He has all of his students' information on here. He's showing how his students are engaged. He has his professional goals on here, evidence of achievement. You can click on anything on here and it shows he has his future plans and projections. Now, granted, this is an older site because this says 2020 and 2021, but just know that you can click on any of these things, and he was able to upload all of those things and keep it in this one central location. So when it's time for you to meet with your administrator and you send them this link and you say, hey, this shows my evidence of attainment of this, and here's the evidence of achievement of my students. This is everything. I don't think there's an administrator worth their soul that would not look at this and say, hey, I got to move you up. And it's not about, again, I said facts over feelings, right? This man is showing the facts. It's not about how I feel about it. It's, hey, this dude has done his due diligence and put the work in. Here's what he's showing that he's done. So he needs to move up. If he was at proficient, he definitely needed to move up. Okay. So you can use a site like this. You can use just a regular Google. You can use a regular Google Slides to just keep all of your information and link things there. But just know that there are several ways for you to keep your artifacts. And again, I'm sorry, did anybody have a question? Okay, so just know that it's important for you to keep this throughout the year, though. You definitely want to ensure that you are keeping all of your artifacts so you don't feel overwhelmed right before you go to your end of the year conference and say, okay, I should have kept all of these things while I was going throughout the year. And again, like I told you, have a professional social media. If you're going to use that to show, keep videos and show pictures, you can link those things into this as well. So just know that this is a good way and a good tool to be able to keep your evidence and your artifacts. All right, so let's talk about Domain 4. I want to make sure that you are well versed in what Domain 4 says, because Domain 4 is going to be the highlight of your end of the year conference, because you really haven't talked about Domain 4 when you're having your walkthroughs and your 45 full evaluation. Domain 4 is what you see at the end. So, and again, you can click on this link, will take you to the teachfortexas.org, the actual manual that has all of these different things. But so if you are looking at it, you'll see that it says professional practices and responsibilities. That's, of course, the domain, but then it talks about the dimension. So the dimension is professional demeanor and ethics. And it gives you the example here. So the teacher meets district expectations for attendance, professional appearance, decorum, procedural, ethical, legal, and statutory responsibilities. So there are several ways that you can show that you've complied with all of these different things, or that you've gone above and beyond those expectations. So again, proficient, rock solid, right? But if I want to get to accomplished and distinguished, I need to know what those things entail. So let's say I want to be at the highest of the high. In order for me to get there, it tells me what this should look like. So behaves in accordance with the Code of Ethics and Standards practice for Texas educators. That's pretty much across the board, right? That is across the board for everything from developing all the way to distinguished. Now, improvement needed says they failed to do that. Now, let's go to this one. Models all professional standards, attendance, professional appearance, and behaviors across the campus and district for educators and students. Now, notice the change in those things. So you see from developing, it says meets most professional standards. Proficient meets all, but it just says all professional standards. When you get to accomplish, it says models all professional standards, appearance, with everything within the classroom. This one says models all professional standards across the campus and district for educators and students. So when you're looking at how each one of these things increases in its accountability, in its wording, you want to be able to say, okay, I'm looking at this and I need to show, if this says that I'm showing how I'm meeting professional standards across the campus and across the district, I need to have evidence that shows that I'm doing that. So you want to make sure that you are looking at the wording of your dimensions. You're looking at this based on, where do I want to be? If I want to be an accomplished and distinguished, I don't just want to be a proficient. I need to know what the wording is saying, and I need to be able to have the evidence that shows that I've done those things. Because remember, your administrator can't move you up if they don't have the evidence that shows and it connects directly to what's in these particular standards. Okay? Now, the good thing about all of this is it also gives you possible sources of evidence over here. So conferences and conversations with teachers, formal observations and walkthroughs, classroom artifacts, analysis of student data. You see that it also, well, is it gonna let me go back? Let's see. Maybe not, but it has all of those different things at the bottom of each one of these that shows you what evidence you can start collecting. So when you're looking at this at the beginning of the year, you know what you need to start collecting if you want to get to a certain level when it comes to your particular dimension. Okay, so dimension 2 is 4.2 is goal setting. So you start your goal setting at the beginning of the year. So your initial meeting with your administrator should have been to go over your goals. So as you're going over those goals, and you should be talking about your goals every time you meet with your administrator, but by the time you get to your end of the year conference, you want to have that evidence that you met your goals. So again, if I want to be at the highest of the high, it says consistently sets, modifies, and meets short and long-term professional goals based on self-assessment, reflection, peer and supervisor feedback, contemporary research, and analysis of student learning. It's a lot, y'all. And again, nobody said that getting to distinguish was going to be easy, okay? But if you are doing the work and you have the artifacts and you have the evidence, you want to show your administrator, and you want to be able to, argue your point and be able to say, hey, listen, I'm just really thinking that I'm at this point, and here's my evidence to show that. And it's gonna, again, be on your administrator to be able to tell you. They're gonna be able to have to say, hey, I think that, it doesn't show the verbiage that you consistently, that's, so just know and again, as a former administrator, those were some of the conversations I had to have with some of my teachers, because I had some teachers that were like, oh yeah, I should have been at distinguished. Okay, tell me why you think that you need to be there. Well, here's my evidence. Look, I was dressed in a suit one day. Okay, this is me being facetious. But if I was looking at 4.1 and they say I was dressed professional that day, I should be a distinguished. Does that say consistently? Does that show me consistent? No, it doesn't. So I would have to, and I'm not saying that everybody has to wear a suit every day or anything, but I'm just using that as an example. You have to make sure that you are showing that the verbiage in that particular goal. So you want to make it, if you want to make it to that particular level, you have to show in your artifacts, in your evidence, that you are meeting the verbiage that's in there. Okay. All right, we're going to keep going. Okay, so 4.3 is professional development. This is why it is so important. Again, you all are, it is 7:05 on a Thursday. Wait, today Wednesday. Why y'all let me keep saying Thursday? It's Wednesday. Well, I was really trying to get to the weekend. That's what it was. I'm so sorry, y'all. So it is 7:05 on a Wednesday, and you all are here getting this knowledge about your responsibilities when it comes to T-TESS. Make sure people know that you have done this. Get your certificate. Make sure that you are showing this and you're keeping this in your artifacts, because this shows that you are going above and beyond to expand your knowledge and to enhance your craft. So anything that you go to, any type of professional development, make sure that you're keeping all of those things. But notice what it says on distinguished. It says leads colleagues collaboratively in and beyond the school to identify professional development needs through detailed data analysis and self-reflection. So that means that you're going to have to help your colleagues find the professional development that you all need based on your student data. You are seeking resources to be able to find some of these things, and you might be leading the professional development. You want to make sure if you're doing any of those things, you have artifacts to show for it. Okay. Okay, wait, I think I see a question, and I'm gonna finish this last one, and then I'm gonna go to the question that's in the chat. Okay, so 4.4 is school community involvement. Y'all, I don't care what you did at the school. Again, if you went to see little JoJo run his first touchdown, take a picture of it, put it in your artifacts. Okay? If you went to go see little Molly be the lead in the theater play, get the program, keep it in your artifacts. If you are engaging with parents and you are a part, you're helping them, if you're part of Parent University and you're helping parents to be able to understand tech tools, or you are contacting parents to check on students and their social emotional well-being, have a log for it. You want to make sure that everybody knows that you are not just educating students, but you care about the totality of students and you care about the culture of the campus. So if you have that evidence, that's what's going to that's going to help you to move from proficient into that accomplished and distinguished realm. Okay. All right, so the question I see in the chat is, if you have a second, third position in the district, for example, I teach virtual school and summer school, in addition to your full-time teaching position, are you allowed to use examples from those positions to help support here and teach? Absolutely, okay? Absolutely. Listen, if they depend on you to be the summer school teacher, if they depend on you to do virtual school, you definitely need to put that on there. That definitely is going to help your domain 4, because that shows that you're going above and beyond. You were multitasking. You were doing all the different things to enhance the quality of education for students and to help the functioning of the campus. Absolutely put that on. Okay. All right. Okay, so end of the year conference flow chart. So I do want y'all to see what this includes. So this resource that I found, did I link this one? If I didn't, let me go back. Okay, no, this is not helping me at all. What are you doing? Okay, I'm so sorry, y'all. Okay, so the end of the year conference flow chart shows you what should be happening as you're meeting with your administrator. So again, we talked about this already. You're talking about your student learning objectives, your professional goals and development, and then domains 1 through 4, with the emphasis on 4. So you want to review initial skills profile and targeted skill profile in Strive. That's if you use Strive. That's with Eduphoria. You're going to review your student tracker. So you're going to have all of your data to be able to show your administrator, and then work through teacher reflection questions. So this is why I kept telling you that the information that your administrator has is for public consumption. So even the questions that your administrator uses as a template for their conferences that they have with you, and not just your end of the year conference. I'm talking about your pre-conference at the beginning of the year, anytime they have a conference with you after they've had their evaluations, all of those things are on that teachfortexas.org. So you can almost be pre-prepared for any conference by looking at those questions and being like, you know what, I need to be able to answer all of these, and I need to be able to have evidence that's associated with these questions. Again, everything is for public consumption. So if you have access to it, utilize every tool so that you can be able to say, hey, yes, I'm able to answer that question. And on top of that, I have the evidence that shows that I'm doing those things that you're asking me about. Okay, and then professional goals and development. Of course, you're going to review evidence toward goal attainment. So you want to show how here's your long-term goal, but these are the short-term goals that you've met throughout the year. You want to show how if you had multiple goals, you want to show how you were able to juggle all of those things and show that attainment of that goal, all of the goals that you set for yourself, but you want to have the evidence that shows how you met those goals. You are going to review impact of completed professional learning activities. Again, it's not just about going to PD. You want to show, hey, I went to this PD, I utilized these strategies, here's how my students grew. Or I went to this PD, I utilized these strategies, and look at how my students were able to benefit from this because they were able to create something based on the professional development that I went to. So again, it's not just enough to have a log of every professional development that you've been to. It's also wanting to show, hey, I went to this professional development over, let's say you went to a professional development over document-based questions, and you use that in a class, and then the students did a whole presentation based on the document-based questions that you learned about in that particular professional development. You want to be able to have evidence of all of those things and how you utilized it and how students were able to impact positively from it. If you can show that, that is growth. That is showing that you are using your knowledge to be able to help students, but also to build yourself professionally. Okay, and then you're going to review potential goals and professional learning activities for next year. I cannot stress enough. If you met a goal the previous year and you want to continue on within that goal, or you want to create something else, create it at the end of the year. That way, when you get to the beginning of the year, you could either choose to use that goal, or you could say, hey, I went to something over the summer and I want my goal to be something else, or I'm going to add to this particular goal. But go ahead and knock your goals out for next year, this year, while you have that time you're able to spend with your administrator who's evaluating you. Even if that person is not going to be your evaluator the next year, you can at least say, hey, I worked on this with XYZ administrator, and they were able to help me to be able to develop these goals that I want to be able to accomplish for the next year. All right, and then domains 1 through 4. So you're going to review your summative scores for domains 1 through 3. I cannot stress enough. Your summative scores should not just be based on one evaluation. It should be a culmination of evaluations together, and it should also include any artifacts and evidence that you brought to the table to show that you've made progress. And then you're going to examine and discuss the evidence related to the teacher performance of domain 4. So look at the asterisk on here. Domain 4 is not scored until teacher has been afforded an opportunity to present evidence related to each of the 4 dimensions during the end of the year conference. If you come into your end of the year conference and your administrator has already filled out your domain 4, they're not doing it right. Point blank, period. They are supposed to, the whole purpose of having a end of the year conference is for you to be able to show your evidence. So yes, they may have evidence of their own, being able to say, hey, these are the things that I've been able to observe, but you want to be able to have your opportunity to highlight the things that you've done. So again, domain 4 should not be filled out unless it's, generic on proficient. Like if you come into your conference and it's on like needs improvement or developing, it shouldn't be there because you haven't had the opportunity to show your evidence. Okay. All right, I'm checking the chat again. Okay. All right, so let's talk about the summative matrix. We're almost at the end, y'all, so you can ask all of your questions away once I get through this one. So a lot of you asked about TIA, the teacher incentive allotment, and we're interested in those things. So TEA actually has a summative matrix that you want to look at when it comes to your evaluation process. So I do have this link to, well, I thought I did. Maybe I didn't, but I will make sure that it's linked if you still have, and you will still have access to this presentation. But if you could just go to TEA's website and search Teacher Summative Matrix. You see here it says that the Teacher Summative Appraisal Rating combines the scores from the rubric and from the student growth measure. So to determine a Teacher Summative Appraisal Rating, find the teacher's rubric rating on the horizontal axis and the student growth score on the vertical axis. And this summative score is where the two lines intersect. So if you go to that website and you click on the teacher evaluation summative, this is what's going to come up. So you see all of these different things here. And anybody? Uh-oh. So, okay. So just know that, let's say, so it's basically showing you the rubric of, and some of these are kind of, seems far-fetched for my brain to understand, because my thing is like, so it's telling you that the vertical axis, which is here, the vertical axis is student growth, right? And the horizontal axis is, excuse me, am I saying that right? Hold on. Let me make sure I'm telling you right. So, okay. Okay, so the teacher rubric rating is the horizontal axis. This is this. And the vertical axis is the student growth. So if I rated a teacher as developing and their student growth is well above expectations, it's saying that they're going to be developing. However, how, to me, and this is just my brain, if the student growth, which is this vertical axis, is well above expectations, why would that teacher be improvement needed? Something isn't matching. Something isn't right. So this will give you, the reason why I'm showing you this is because if you ever find yourself in a situation where your student growth scores are astronomical and amazing, but you didn't get the T-TESS that you felt like you deserved, this matrix helps you to be able to give you some resources to be able to state your case for what you needed to talk to your administrator about. So we want you to have all of the tools and the resources that you need in order to advocate for yourself. And this helps you to be able to advocate for yourself. It helps you to be able to say, hey, my kids are rocking it and I'm doing these things in my classroom. This is why I feel like my appraisal shouldn't just be at proficient. It should be at accomplished or distinguished in certain areas, because this is what I'm doing to grow kids. So, but again, no administrator is going to give you an increase in your score if you do not have the evidence to show it. Because remember, it's facts over feelings. T-TESS is objective. You have to show the evidence. Again, when I was an administrator, I used to beg my teachers, please show me what I didn't see, because I want to be able to give you the evaluation that you deserve. And I know I'm human and I'm not going to capture everything. I'm not going to see all of the great things that are happening in the 20 to 25 teachers that I was assigned to as an administrator. So it becomes the teacher's responsibility to say, hey, Broussard, I really needed you to see this because you came in at the beginning of this lesson. And yes, while I was rocking it and you had me at proficient, I need you to see what we were able to do throughout the cycle of that lesson. here's my artifacts that show that. Here's a video of the kids when they did their presentation. Here's their assignments that shows that they were working collaboratively together. Here's the assessment that they took, and it shows growth from the previous assessment that they took. You are the ones that are going to have to advocate for yourself. So just know that I want you all to be rock stars, which you all are anyway, but we have to show the evidence that you are. And when you get into your end of the year conference with your administrator and you have all of this evidence, whether you're a binder beast like I was back in the day, or you're going to create a digital portfolio that's going to have all of these artifacts, you want to be able to show your administrator that you mean business about your evaluation. And you have all of the resources to show why you need to be given the opportunity to have a high evaluation. Now, remember, going back to Tia, remember your evaluation alone is not going to hold you to get those designations. You are going to have to show student growth. You are going to have to show student growth based on the measures that have been established by your district and has been approved by the state. So it's not just enough to have the T-TESS. You also have to have the student growth. And I'm certain we can probably do a training at some point to talk about what student growth looks like and how that impacts Tia. But that's really a whole presentation by itself. But so I hope that you got something out of tonight. I hope that this was valuable. This is my contact information. If you have, again, I know it's X, but I still call it Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter, or you can send me an email directly. If, especially the awesome lady that had the questions about her ECHS classes, please take my information down so I can look that information, because I want to make sure I was giving you accurate information when it comes to your question. But I am open for any questions that you may have for me about anything that was in the presentation. So I did want to give you all enough time to be able to pick my brain as a former administrator who had to do several of these end of the year conferences every year with multiple teachers. Okay, I see a question. Ms. Khan, do you have a question for us?
Okay, I got a question.
Oh,
Where
can
is
you
your
hear me?
Ms. Khan, I can't hear you.
Oh, okay. So we got word on our campus last Friday, or after 4 o'clock in the afternoon, from our principal in her, weekly newsletter that goes, into the next week, saying that everything for the T-TESS is going to be due March 31st, next Monday. And we're all like, what? It's like, okay, so I guess that's, this was last Friday, after everybody had left, like 4:20. I just happened to read it from home. And we're like, is this kind of like a normal time for this? Like, I guess we have to upload everything. Is this like normal? Because it's like, I'm new, and I'm like, wouldn't it have been nice if we would have had like something like March 1st saying, hey, March 31st, don't forget. I mean, I didn't realize. I mean, is this normal?
So every district is supposed to have a T-TESS timeline. I'm just being totally transparent with you as a former administrator. Depending on the caseload of your administrators, some people, although they had deadlines, those deadlines may have been suggestions because it might have been a lot of teachers that your administrators had to evaluate. Now that does not I'm not giving that as an excuse as to they still have to offer. So just so you know, you are allowed an end of the year conference. And if you don't get that, you are able to tell your administrator, hey, I did not waive my end of the year conference. I would like to have that conference. I understand that you have a deadline that the district may be giving you, but I want to have my end of the year conference in order to be able to show my artifacts and my evidence, because I do feel like I have enough of these resources to be able to move my evaluation up in certain domains.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. I saw I saw someone had their Ramiro.
Ramiro has
Yes.
his hand up.
Okay. I don't see your contact information on the slide. Or am I looking at the wrong thing?
Uh-oh, is it not
Okay,
up?
I see it. I see it. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
No problem. Any other questions? I know I gave you a lot. So like I said, please take down my contact information. If you need anything, I will definitely, I definitely want to help everybody. Again, as a former administrator, there were certain times where I would have to pull my teachers to the side and be like, hey, listen, I know I didn't see the whole of that lesson, but it looked like it was going to be phenomenal. Make sure you taking your artifacts so that when we meet again, I can put all of that information together. So you definitely want to, ensure that you have everything you need in order to prove all of the great things that you do in your classroom and across your campuses. So, and across the district, because remember, we're looking at the verbiage of all of our domains. And some of them actually say classroom, campus, district. So you definitely want to know that you are doing that. You want people to see that you're doing that all across those areas. Okay, I see a question in the chat. Okay, my district has its deadlines in Strive. Does your district use Strive? And do you see deadlines there? Yes. Okay, so some districts do put their deadlines into Strive. My district does publish their calendar. So you'll be able to see when things are due.
Sorry, I was putting that there to help Jeannie, like,
Oh, okay.
because I know
Awesome.
like that's one place where I can see my deadlines. So I didn't know what program her district was using. So that's one place where I can see where my district has their deadlines.
Okay, awesome. Awesome.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was gonna tell Jeannie too. I'm in Sci-Fair, and our documents are normally due March 31st, like every year. And this is my 3rd year in Sci-Fair, so normally it's March 31st.
Okay,
Oh,
awesome. But that's
okay.
I'm so glad that y'all are saying those things, but absolutely right. There should be you are allowed to know when those things are due. So don't think that that's not a state secret. Okay. It shouldn't be guarded by the FBI, CIA, all that other stuff. No, it's the timeline. You should know the timeline so that you can be prepared to be able to have those your artifacts and everything together, because again, you're doing your due diligence to grow kids in the classroom, so you need an opportunity to prepare to do the things that you need to do when it comes to getting prepared for your end of the year conference. Because end of the year conference, think about what we're doing right now, right? It's March 26th. They're saying that this is due March 31st. What happens the next week? Star. So they know that everybody is stressed. So you should be able to know when all of those things are due.
There's a question in the chat.
Okay, let me go back to the chat. What if a teacher has not had any observations walk through this year? Oh, Jesus. Okay, so first, when did that teacher get to the school? Were they hired at the beginning of the year? Or are they a new hire? I would need to know that first.
This is her first year teaching.
Okay, this is her first year teaching, but she's been there the entirety of the year?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then that person should have gotten that person should definitely have gotten a evaluation. And that person should be given an evaluation. Even if it's here now at March 26th, that person is supposed to get an evaluation.
So, but she should be collecting this stuff anyway, correct?
Yes,
I'm
absolutely.
I will pass that on to her, and I've already told her, you need to ask somebody to come in and observe you, because how are you going to get any better if you don't know what they're looking for, right?
Absolutely. But I mean, so think of it like this. Your administrator, not only are they your evaluator, but remember we adopted T-TESS for teacher growth, right? So your administrator is almost like your mentor, right? And they should be, again, I mentor a lot of aspiring leaders, and help them to, like, if they want to go into the administrator route, I try to help them to pass the test. And the test says the administrator as the instructional leader. That is the name of the test that they have to take at the state. And the administrator has to be the instructional leader. And if they are not mentoring their teachers, then they're missing the mark. Or I shouldn't say if they directly are mentoring their teachers. I mean, because I'm not going to give them a pass. They should be, but they should also be providing resources. So if I know that you need help, I should be connecting you to the campus instructional specialists or the district curriculum coordinators or a department chair. I should be giving you a mentor teacher. I should be, looking up professional development for you to go to because you're first year. Those are the things that if they can't mentor them directly, they should be finding resources for them to be mentored.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, I see something else. Okay, I had a walkthrough or two, but not a formal observation. Okay, well, you're supposed to have one. According to the T-TESS, whatever, all the things that we are told as administrators is that the minimum is 2 15s and a 45. So you should have a formal observation. So I would reach out to my administrator and say, hey, I didn't get my formal observation. And yes, it should have already occurred. I don't know about other districts, but when I was on a campus, we tried to have all of our 45s done before spring break. Because we knew once we got back from spring break, well, actually, we tried to have all of our stuff done by the end of February because we knew we were coming into testing season. February is when TELPAS starts. It's just, it gets super chaotic. And as an administrator, I had to plan all those things out. I'm gonna be honest, like I would always put my new teachers in the first semester, and any teachers that were struggling, and I knew that, because I would, of course, meet with them. I would try to put them in the first semester. That way I could also have time to be able to go into them again in the second semester. But my veteran teachers or my teachers that I knew already had like designations and were rocking it, I would, try to get them in the second semester. Okay, my district has on and off years where we get our 45-minute walkthrough every other year. Is that in their policy?
Yes, I think so. I mean, like we all kind of are aware that it's every other year. New teachers, it's always their on year, of course. And then from there on, it's 1 year on, 1 year off. We still get the 15-minute evaluations or 15-minute walkthroughs or something, but we only have the 45-minute, the long one, every other year.
Okay, so that should be somewhere in policy though. you want to make sure that because the thing is that especially if your district is a teacher incentive allotment district, it has to be in policy that they have, this is how they evaluate people. So I would ask for the written policy of how many evaluations, because so I will say it can go, you can have different policies for T-TESS, but it has to go through, I believe, your school board. Like it has to be approved and it has to be in policy.
I think that's across the district, not just my school.
That's what I'm
So,
saying. So if it
yeah,
is,
yeah.
if they do have a policy, then they've adopted that and it's gone through, you know, the processes that it needs to. But I do know for like teacher incentive allotment purposes, they would have had to say this is what we do so that our teachers can qualify for it.
I know with the TIA, they have, which I was kind of, you said that this wasn't true. Well, you didn't say it wasn't true, but for my district, they have where the only teachers who can qualify for TIA are the ones who are tested.
And that's okay. So, and no, I did not. So let me explain that.
Okay.
In the onset of TIA, when it first started, it was just tested teachers. Then they became, you know, they expanded the model to be able to include other teachers. And there are different models that have been adopted by different districts. Every district does not have, like some districts are still in their infancy when it comes to TIA, and they are just focused on core teachers that have a STAR, EOC, that type of thing. They haven't gotten to expand to where they've come up with those rubrics and assessment measures for other types of teachers. So just know that it depends on the district and where they are in the TIA process.
Okay,
But
that
thank you for
makes, yeah, okay, thank you for clarifying. Yeah, because this is our infancy, which is, I think it's their first year starting this, so with TIA. Because I know that's why I decided to try to get nationally board certified. So yeah, I think this is our first year, but I've only been with the district 3 years, so
Okay, no worries. I
I'm
mean,
still
and you
new
don't.
myself.
And just remember, national board certification is of course, a good thing to have. That's how you can get your designation, but that's not the only way for you to get your designation. And remember that you have to be coded accurately. Again, that's why I keep saying, my department is over PEEM, so you have to be coded accurately. I think national board certification, according to the TWEDS, is a 01. And if you've already gained a designation, you're a 03. And if you're pending designation, you're a 02. And I know those numbers probably, you're like, Bruce, what are you talking about? It's the TWEDS. It's all PEEM. So
So how would I know what I'm coded as? Do I just ask?
you can ask, yeah, you can ask your administrators, they'll let you know. But if you haven't received a designation, you won't have a coding. If you haven't received a designation yet. But if you do have if you are either pending a designation or have already received a designation, then you will have a coding.
I haven't been certified or anything yet.
So that
I
means
say yet because I'm
have a
hoping.
coding yet. Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Great questions. Okay. Yes. Okay. Let's see. All right. Any other questions? All right, y'all. Well, I'll stay on if you have any individual questions that you want to ask, but I'm going to give this back over to Claudia and Jamie, and just thank you all for just being so receptive and all of the great questions that you were asking. And I mean, just thank you for being a part of this and taking time out of your busy schedules to learn more about T-TESS. You all are the reason why public education is amazing.
Thank you so much, Rachel. I learned so much, and I know you all did too. So hopefully you feel empowered to go into your end of year conference and take ownership of it. Come out with some awesome scores and hopefully get some TIA money. With that, next week, we have financial wellness. So make sure that you come back next Wednesday at that time. And Dr. Morales and I will be sending out some more information. You should get some reminders about that, but make sure that you come back. So if you're looking to purchase a home, a car, or just trying to get your finances in order, it's a great workshop for you to attend. It's actually a teachers credit union out of, is it Amarillo? That will be coming on to lead that session for us. So it's just how we can still be educators and be money smart too. So with that, Claudia, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
No, thank you, Jamie, and thank you everyone for coming. Rachel, loved it. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And I will send you your certificate in the next few days. I took attendance at the 1 hour mark. So be looking for that along with the recording and any other important information that Rachel did share with us. We will package all of that into a nice, neat email, and that will come from Dr. Morales. So with that, you all have a good evening, and we will see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank y'all.
Thank
you
you.
guys.